Hello everyone. Welcome into my very first video on my new channel, Cass Reacts the series. This is where you're going to find all my TV content from here on out. And today we're starting the channel off with me ranking every single Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode. And when I decided that I was going to do this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so fun. Like, I'm going to go back through all the episodes. A ranking is always so fun to do. No, I literally was crashing out trying to rank these episodes. I literally, at one point, I looked at my boyfriend and I was like, I can't do this. Should I just do a top 20 episodes video? I can't do this. And he was like, you got to do this. And I was like, I know I got to do this. Like, this is the fun video that needs to be done. But it was just so hard to rank everything, specifically with me only seeing every episode basically one time. There's a few that I've rewatched, like the first 4 I've rewatched with my sister. But other than that, no, like it's been over a couple years span and I've only seen episodes one time. And it's like, oh my God, I have to remember what was this episode, what was that episode, because I remember moments, but it's like, wait, I need to like read the episode summaries again. And then it's so hard on top of that to actually choose like, well, what did I like more? I don't know. So basically, here's my disclaimer for today's video. Please go easy on me. I know I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong, but I still think this is going to be, obviously no one's wrong. No one's ranking can ever be wrong. It is what it is, right? Like everything is subjective, but I'm as confident as I can be. I've spent a lot of time putting this ranking together. I have gone through the episode summaries. I talked to a friend of mine who's like a big Buffy fanatic and was like, okay, remind me, am I forgetting anything that happened in this episode? And I took my time to really go through and rank these episodes. But I just know that when I inevitably start rewatching this show in a week's time, I'm already going to have my opinions changing. Like, I'm already going to be like, no, actually, I forgot this episode's a banger. Like, this should be higher. Or, wait, I don't like this episode as I thought I did. This has to be lower. You know, this is ever changing, but I still think this is an interesting video for you guys to watch just out of like curiosity's sake of a first time viewer's initial ranking. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, when you have time to sit with the episodes more, you're gonna change your mind. But there's something cool about seeing like just on a first watch how the show hit me and where the episodes fall. Let's get into it. Let me stop stalling and let's get into my episode ranking. I'm on a green screen if you didn't notice, and I put together a little PowerPoint for you, and let's get into this PowerPoint. Okay, so this I'm pretty confident about. My least favorite, my number 144 Buffy episode is Bad Eggs. I'm going to try to keep this choppy, by the way. My goal is to keep this video around an hour long. I probably will fail at that, but I talk a lot in my reactions, okay? I want this to be a little bit more snappy. Bad Eggs. I will tell you, this is the only Buffy episode that I was bored by. The only Buffy episode that I was like, it kind of dragged. I kind of didn't care. And I hate to say it. I hate to say it because Buffy is a perfect show, right? I really believe that. It's my favorite show of all time. But I also think this is incredible that out of 144 episodes, there's only one episode that I was like, kind of snore into. You know what I mean? So that's that. All of my other lower episodes that we're about to get into, I at the very least was entertained. Next, we have Teacher's Pet. Obviously, this episode makes us all uncomfortable, right? But it's just so shocking that it's like, it's like entertaining still. You know, you're still sitting there like, holy shit, what the fuck? You know, so that it elicits some sort of emotion out of me, and that was the emotion. Teacher's Pet, I rewatched this one recently with my sister and I was like, yeah, this one is a little different. This is not a reflection of what the show usually is. Just accept it. It's here. Just get through it. Number 142, The Pack. The Pack, I actually kind of enjoyed as an episode on a first watch. Genuinely, like I said, it's only that Bad Eggs that I wasn't enjoying. The rest I was like at least entertained. And again, this is one where I was very entertained. I was shocked that Principal Flutie was eaten by his own students. I was in shock, and but this is just a really hard episode to watch because I freaking hate Xander in this episode. He plays that part so well, and I literally despise it, and I'm like fearful to watch this episode again because it makes me so angry. And then there's a little bit of a controversy of what Xander does in this episode and how he handles it when he comes out of this haze of being a hyena, and it's not handled the best, and it's like, oh, okay. Number 141 is Him, season 7, episode 6. I was uncomfortable. Seeing Buffy and Dawn fight over the same high school boy. Number 140, Beer Bad. This is not an awful episode. It's just like very in your face. Like, beer bad is the message, and it's very in your face, and it's a little bit out of place, I think, in what the usual formula of these episodes are. It felt like it was prioritizing the message of don't drink alcohol, kids, than like the plot, you know? I also personally, sorry, I'm like gonna be looking down because I do have some notes in front of me as I'm doing this. I also personally am not a huge fan of like drunk people. Like, seeing people act drunk in TV and movies, I think it's a really, really hard to do. And it oftentimes just it just annoys me. I don't know. For some reason, it just always triggers me. So this was not my favorite episode to watch, but I do have to shout out Buffy, like, for coming out of the haze that she's put in here, her drunken haze, and she still saves the day. She still steps up and is the slayer after what she goes through in this episode. So MVP Buffy as always. All right, then we have Go Fish. This is a funny episode. This is some shocking things. You know, this picture that I chose, you know what they're looking at, and I will never forget what they're looking at. It was astounding. It was shocking. The fish thing, it's just like, you know, it's a monster of the week that sticks with you in a goofy way. It's crazy to me that they just went off into the ocean at the end and they're still swimming around out there. Yeah, another one that's a little frustrating to watch, but I enjoyed the plot of this one. I thought it had some fun twists and turns. Okay, number 138 is The Freshman. I realized when I was doing my rankings that I am often not a huge fan of like season premieres. I like when we're at the point of the season where we're getting into the meat of it. So naturally, just season premieres, they're cool to me. They're fun. They're necessary, but they're never my favorite. And The Freshman is definitely my least favorite season premiere of Buffy. It was hard just like leaving Sunnydale High and being in this new environment. It took a second to reacclimate to the show and to be like, okay, this is where we're at now. Like, we're leaving a certain era of the show behind and we have to step into this new one, and I need to learn to embrace it. Also, I remember in this episode, there was a group of vampires that were introduced that I thought were going to continue to be in the show, and they weren't. And I was a little bit disappointed by that. Number 137 is Ted. So, Ted, this is another one I realized as well when I was ranking these episodes. I realized that a lot of my ranking was affected by how episodes made me feel, my emotions. Like, for example, The Pack. It's that low for me because it's just a hard watch, and it makes me upset. This is another one that makes me upset. Like, seeing the Ted character just made me so upset. However, it's this high at the end of the day, honestly. Not that 137 is high, but it's this high because I really did enjoy like the whole subplot of Buffy thinking that she killed like a regular civilian and like realizing, you know, what strength she has to learn to hone in and be careful with. She's very lucky that he was not just a regular civilian, but he could have been. She thought he was, and that's a really scary thought. So I appreciated like that harder hitting message that was in this episode. Number 136, another season premiere, Lessons, 7-1. This episode, I thought we were setting up Dawn and like the group of friends that she created in this episode. Again, I thought we were setting these characters up to be a part of the season, and then they weren't. I was a little hesitant. I remember watching the episode and being like, I don't really want them to be a part of the season, but also if you're going to set them up here, I was also confused when they didn't make them part of the season. I don't know. This just wasn't the strongest season premiere in my opinion, except for that final scene, you know, where all of the big bads come back and they're like shape-shifting into each other, and it sets up the mystery, the initial mystery of the season really well and gets you excited for the next episode. But I wasn't super excited up until that scene when it came to this episode. Okay, number 135, Superstar. The Jonathan episode. Hot take from me. I don't know if this is a hot take. I personally do kind of wish that Jonathan's character ended with the episode Earshot, because I thought that was a really great ending for his character, or could have been. And then he just keeps coming back and keeps making mistakes, and it's frustrating to see it every time. However, this episode, I really love a concept episode where you step out of the regular formula of what you do for most of the writing, for most of the episodes of this series. You step out of that and do something different, do something new. And I love how much they committed to this episode, and it was still a fun watch, even if though I was pretty disappointed in Jonathan. And by pretty, I mean very. Number 134 is Double Meat Palace. This is 612. This is like, episode stands out to me in a really stark way. Like, this episode has its own aura around it, like its own aesthetic to it, and so it's memorable, and that's great. But other than that, it's like, no pun intended, this episode doesn't have very much meat to its bones, you know? Okay, number 133, Pangs 48. This shot at the end is one of my favorite shots of the entire series. All of their faces looking at Buffy when she realizes that Angel was there the whole time. Hilarious. But I was frustrated by a couple things. You know, I think this episode was meant to be progressive for its time, but over time, of course, it doesn't come off that way. There were just some things handled a certain way in this episode that is a little hard to watch in today's day and age with the way that we've evolved as people. But at the same time, another thing that was frustrating to me about this episode was the whole trope of Angel being there behind the scenes without Buffy knowing. I just hated that. I was so frustrated by that. I was like, I hate, it's almost a little bit of a miscommunication trope in a way. I just hate it because I want everyone to be on the same page. And when you have the ability to have everyone on the same page, but you're choosing not to, Angel, cough, cough, it's frustrating to watch, in my opinion. Okay, then we have Reptile Boy. So 2-5, I feel like I actually might have this a little bit higher than most people do in their rankings, if you were ranking it yourself. But the reason I have this as high as it is because I loved the horror elements that they infused into this episode. I'm a huge horror fan. I love that they used horror tropes to tell the story in this episode. And also, at the end of the day, like, my biggest fear in the world is men. I'm so sorry to men out there. I know that most men are very kind, but I watched the movie Scream too early on. I watched the movie Scream when I was 5 years old, and ever since then, I've been worried about men killing me, you know? That's why I'm scared of men. So when we have these episodes where it's just regular boys who are, you know, being evil, it really sticks with me, and it really scares me in a way that other episodes can't, and in a weird way I like to be scared. So then we have Inca Mummy Girl 2-4. Okay, so the reason this is this low is because for some reason I have a hard time when we have episodes that are where the main plot is focused on someone outside of our main cast. It loses my interest a little bit. However, I really enjoyed this girl. I forget what her name was, but I really enjoyed the story that she had to share and the way that Buffy was actually able to relate to it. I really like how that all tied together. But, you know, it was so like plot centric on her rather than one of my favorite, you know, one of our loved Scooby Gang members, that it falls a little bit lower for me. Number 130, As You Were, 615. This was fun because it did some character work that I enjoyed when it came to Buffy and when it came to Spike as well. But I don't know. I was just like, it was cool to see Riley back. He was never my favorite character. And then just seeing him like rub his marriage in her face, not that he did it obnoxiously or on purpose or anything like that, but it was just like kind of sad. And it was sad to see Buffy so affected by the fact that he seemed to be doing great in life. It's just a sad episode, you know? It's sad to see your ex thriving and you like literally are just trying to scrape yourself back from the dead. It just makes me sad. So yeah, but I did appreciate that Riley's wife in this episode was actually a nice woman, like a nice girl, you know. It's, I think, sometimes very easy to write like, ooh, our ex-lover's new girl is so she's so gross, she's evil, she's not as good as me. And I'm so happy they didn't write it that way. Next we have Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered. This episode I really enjoyed. I thought it was funny. It's a little scary because this is the one, right, where everyone is obsessed with Xander. And it was really alarming seeing Joyce being one of those people, but in a silly, funny way. This is also in the midst of like the whole drama between Xander and Cordelia, which honestly I like. It's crazy, but I like when things get messy drama-wise because I am a teen drama girly and I like when we lean into tropes like that within this show as well, even though it's so much more than a teen drama. So I had fun with this episode. It's just this low because it's just meant to be fun, you know? Never Kill a Boy on the First Date, episode 1-5. The reason I have this so high is because it establishes, I feel like it's the first episode to establish how hard it's going to be for Buffy to connect to people in a romantic way, to men in a romantic way. It's like a common thread that runs throughout the whole show where she's constantly trying to connect with people, but she's just so different that she's not able to, or she's not able to let herself. And this guy was weird. He was like so obsessed. He was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Let's do this again. She's like, boy, you're going to get yourself killed. It's like, you can't like what I do this much. It's like a very fine line, the type of person that works for her. Number 127 is Dead Man's Party. It was just hard to watch everyone gang up on Buffy at the end of this episode. This was also a hard watch, but I kind of appreciate it because this is also a theme that we're going to see pop up throughout the show where people are just unnecessarily hard on Buffy and just don't see what she's putting herself through for the state of the world, for the sake of the world. Then we've got Killed by Death. I remember like enjoying the plot of this episode and the twists that happened in this episode and the reveal of what the monster of the week was in this episode. That was all very fun, but it ends there. I liked it. That's all. Number 125, Earshot. This is the Jonathan episode where Buffy is hearing what everyone's thinking, and she hears that someone seems to be about to attack the school students. But then we realize that that's not the case, and it was Jonathan's thoughts that she was listening to, and he's actually just gonna hurt himself, and she talks him down from it. We save Jonathan, and then this is just this image I chose, it's just a hilarious end to the episode. I appreciated this goofiness they threw in at the end of such a heavy episode. Another season premiere, When She Was Bad, 2-1. So for me, I think this is a necessary episode. The way that Buffy is acting in this episode makes sense for everything that she went through in the first season. It doesn't make it any easier to watch, specifically the scene here that I am showing on screen. It was hard to watch a lot of this episode. Now we have Triangle. So this is fun. You know, we introduced Olaf, right? This is the introduction of Olaf, and we realize that he's Anya's ex. And the only thing is with this episode, the whole rivalry between Willow and Anya did feel a little bit thrown out of nowhere. Maybe I'll feel differently about that on a rewatch now that I know to look for little signs. Because I think if there were more moments added, you know, the rivalry coming to a head here in this episode would have made more sense. But on a first watch, I was just like, this is kind of out of nowhere, but still a fun episode. Number 122, Empty Places. This is the episode where Buffy gets kicked out of the house. Helpless. This was also really frustrating. So many of my bottom episodes are like the reasons I'm putting them at the bottom is because they're frustrating to me. This is the one where Giles takes away Buffy's powers and has to put her through a series of tests that the council want to put her through to make sure that she's truly embracing her role as a slayer. It's frustrating because sure, Giles like turns against the council at the end of this and he's there for Buffy in the end, but I thought he already would have been there. I didn't think he would have done this in the first place. I thought their relationship was at a point where he would never do what he did for the majority of this episode. So it's like, okay, I'm happy that he learned that that's not okay, but I thought you already knew that. Yeah, it was sad to watch. Wild at Heart. Can you guess what I'm about to say? Veruca and Oz was frustrating to watch. End of story. The Puppet Show. I love this episode. I think based on what I'm seeing online and like fans' reaction to the show and everything, I think I like the first season more than most people do. And I love this episode. I love The Puppet Show. I think it's so goofy. I think it's very smart writing, like a very tight script. One of the standout monster of the weeks of the whole series, in my opinion, but specifically, of course, the first season. I love a double twist, and that's what this episode did really well. So, yeah. Okay, The Replacement. This is one of my favorite character work episodes. I thought it was really interesting. I think this specific episode might actually rise for me in my rankings on a rewatch of the series. A very interesting deep dive into Xander's insecurities. I think it's needed for a character like his to understand what goes on in here and what he struggles with. And I think it's actually a very relatable episode as well to most people, I would assume. I, Robot You, Jane, another amazing season 1 episode. Willow is catfished. This episode is so ahead of its time. That's all I have to say. Okay, don't yell at me, don't yell at me, don't yell at me. I'm so sorry that this is this low, but I had to be honest. So my number 116 is Restless, the finale for season 4. I know for a fact that this episode is going to rise significantly in my rankings on a rewatch. Some episodes I'm like, this might rise, this might. No, I know that this one will. But on a first watch, I have to be honest, this is really hard to take in. I already know that this is an amazing, amazing episode in hindsight with the rest of the series in mind. But when you're watching it for the first time, it's cool and it's fun and it's weird and you can feel that something special is happening here, but you just don't get it. I think you just don't get it on a first watch, and that's part of the magic of it. It's kind of fun that you look back on it and that's when it clicks. But as far as my first initial ranking, after only watching this episode one time, this is where it falls. Some assembly required. Another one where it's just shocking the lengths that some men will go to. This one was scary to me. This one is also a little bit fun because they're kind of playing on the trope of Frankenstein's monster. And also, Cordelia is a victim. So this is another step toward Cordelia actually accepting the Scooby Gang for like the badasses that they are. But yeah, very memorable episode. So that's why it's up here. Okay, The Killer in Me, 713. Of course, this is the one where Willow turns into Warren because of her guilt about moving on with Kennedy and losing Tara. I thought this was a good episode, but also Amy is here. And I can't fucking stand what they did with Amy's character. Literally, she literally makes me so angry. I can't enjoy the show when she's on screen. I hate her. Okay? So that's why this is this low. Number 113, Out of My Mind. Of course, this is where Spike is trying to get his chip removed. It's a really, really fun sequence. Just Spike and Harmony ever being together for any reason throughout the show is always a fun dynamic. And this was an intense sequence here. And then also, I remember this is an episode where a lot of interesting conversations happened between Buffy and Riley, and you kind of come to understand the dynamic there and why they aren't going to work out. And that just starts to unravel a bit, and it's just really interesting. I think Riley's a very interesting boyfriend of Buffy's, the conversations that come out of that. And as far as realizing what Buffy needs in a relationship that is missing here. Number 112, The Yoko Factor. This is a fun episode. It just shows how good Spike is at reading people. Like, you might have picked up on that already at this point in the show, but this episode really hammers that fact in. He sees people. I know that this show has a whole episode talking about how Xander sees people and everything. Spike sees people. Xander does too, but Spike does more, in my opinion. A lot more. And this episode is kind of like the start of making you realize that. It's also a nice episode because this is where, our Scooby Gang is at odds with each other for a lot of the season and kind of like having friendship issues, but they decide they actually come together again properly for the first time in this episode, which is a relief. Okay, number 111, First Date. So of course, this is when we find out about Principal Wood's past. I thought that was a really cool reveal. It's the standout moment of this episode, and it's why this episode ranks as high as it does, is because of the callback to, the fact that Spike killed Principal Wood's mom. Number 110, New Moon Rising. This one I should maybe have higher, but again, I let my emotions take over my ranking, and I was just so excited to see Oz back. I loved Oz. I loved his character so much. I wish he didn't have to leave the show the way that he did. And I was so excited to see him back, but then I was so heartbroken to see him leave. So that's why this is that low. But then it's also as high as it is because this is, where Willow and Tara officially get together, which I believe Tara is like her person who she's meant to be with. So that's a really exciting moment. All right, number 109, Beneath You. I chose this picture because this is the standout scene of the episode. You know, Buffy finds out that Spike went and got himself a soul, and he is struggling real hard. This is an incredible scene, just writing wise. I loved the writing in this scene. But this is one of those episodes where it's like this scene just like overshadows the whole rest of the episode. So like the rest of the episode is fine. It's fun, it's good. But this is the standout scene. So it's really the scene that carries it this high. Number 108, Normal Again. I know that this is a very controversial episode. I like it. I don't think it's trying to say that, you know, all of this is in Buffy's head, even though it is very interesting that this episode ended the way that it did. But I love this episode just for how it delves into Buffy's psyche. And, you know, it just makes sense that she would hit a wall at this point in her journey, and it was just cool to see her embrace her friends at the end. You know, I love when friendship shines through in this show. Number 107, Never Leave Me. This is where Buffy sees Spike, and Buffy sees that he needs help, and she's trying to help him, and everyone else is like, why are you doing this, why are you doing this? And she's like, no, I know he is good, and this is not him, it's the first. And I just love that she understands that. This is a relieving episode where she's understanding that and ready to help him, because I think he deserves that help. Also, you know, the council gets blown up. 106, A New Man. This is the Giles episode where Giles turns into whatever we see there on screen right now. And I had so much fun with the Spike and Giles dynamic in this episode. I love that they had Spike able to understand the language that Giles was speaking. But more importantly, my favorite part of the episode was Buffy just seeing Giles's eyes and knowing that it was him and not killing him, because she's like, she can see that it's Giles, and I love that moment. Number 105, Gingerbread. Oh my god, this episode is so fun to me. This is one of my favorite like random one-off kind of monster of the week episodes. I know it's not really monster, but you know what I mean. This is where like Joyce like is the front runner of this cult that is bringing down Buffy and Willow, and it's like kill the witches kind of vibes, and it's so wacky. Also, we get some insight into Willow's mom in this episode. I wish we continued with that and got more background into Willow's family over time, but that's fine. This is also, oh, isn't this also where Amy turns into a rat? If only she'd stayed that way. Okay, number 104, The Initiative. This is where Spike is chipped and he tries to hurt Willow, but he can't. And I thought that the writing around that moment in this scene was very funny and just lighthearted enough, but also a little bit spooky. And also, this is the episode where, you know, we find out what Riley is a part of, that he's a part of the Initiative, but there's still so much mystery around, okay, what is the Initiative doing? What is this? And it really hypes you up for where the season's gonna go. The thing with season 4, though, I'll say, I think the mystery that it sets up in the beginning is more exciting to me than what it actually is, like when we start figuring stuff out. Okay, 103 is Bring on the Night. Highlights of this episode, I love the Uber vamp and, you know, Buffy facing him for the first time and establishing how hard this is going to be, you know, how intense this is about to be, that just one of them is this hard to fight. But then also this is the episode where Giles shows up with a bunch of the potentials. I have mixed feelings about the potentials being a part of season 7. I know it's necessary for the payoff that we get at the end, how special the payoff at the end is. It's worth it for how this season ends. But it's also hard because, like, I don't really care about them as much as, you know, the main Scooby Gang. I'd rather be focused on them rather than these potentials, these random girls. But yeah, I was also very, very disappointed with some writing in this season. This is probably my least favorite writing in throughout the whole show, is like the fact that they set up Giles as possibly being the first, having been killed when we saw that attack. You know, his head was almost sliced off by a bringer. We saw that, and then it just cut away, and we don't see him, and then he shows up in this episode, and then we notice that no one's touching him, and the writers did that on purpose to make us think he could be the first, but I just thought that was like not cool, because it's like, okay, but he's not. Then later when we find out he's not, it's just like, oh, okay. Why did you write it that way then? Just to trick me? I don't know. It just felt a little sloppy. Beauty and the Beasts, number 102. This is a really, really dark monster of the week. There are some questionable things said in this episode that I won't get into. But yeah, the fact that we thought it was Oz and it wasn't, I was so happy. I was so relieved when it wasn't Oz. And also, this is as high as it is because I believe this is the episode where Angel comes back from hell. And that's such an exciting moment. Number 101, Hell's Bells. This episode makes me sad. It is well written. I still to this day, though, wish that Xander did not do what he did here. Number 100, Intervention. This is in the midst of glory and her trying to get the key. In this episode, she thinks Spike is the key. Also in this episode, Spike makes Buffy bot. I hate it. I hate it. But it's not supposed to be that deep, I don't think, based on how the show writes it. But it's still, grosses me out. But hey, he's a vampire without a soul. Are we surprised? But what I really appreciate about this episode is Buffy's little venture into the desert and what she learns there. And I believe that this is where she talks to the first Slayer again and just learns some lessons that are very integral to her character and to how the show's going to play out from here. Number 99, Where the Wild Things Are. I thought this episode had a lot of fun moments, and I will always remember that shot where like Buffy and Riley are on the bed in the darkness and the shot is just pulling up into the darkness. I thought that this was an important episode for their relationship. I think their relationship was very much running on the physical attraction to each other, and that this was a bit of a wake-up call in regard to that, which I appreciated. Then we have Goodbye Iowa, number 98. What makes me happy about this episode is Riley kind of waking up out of the initiative mindset. It's really, really nice to see that finally happen. Him put his trust in Buffy and be like, oh, come on, okay, you were right. And, seeing him face, what's been done to him, the brainwashing and like the literal drugs that have been pumped into his system, seeing him having to combat that is really intense. And then Adam is just off doing his thing in this episode, which is, I guess, entertaining. Number 97, Doomed. This episode is as high as it is because this is the episode where Spike realizes that he can beat up demons. And it's a huge turn and a necessary turn in him staying a part of the show. Obviously, at this point, he's chipped. He can't hurt innocent people, but him realizing he can at least like get out his aggression on evil things, it's just so exciting for him to make that realization, and it's funny and it's fun and it's like so needed because that's the only way that he's going to be able to stick around us, Out of Mind, Out of Sight, episode 111. This episode, again, is so memorable to me. I don't know why. A lot of season 1 is so memorable to me. Season 2, in hindsight, is hazy to me for some reason. I remember major things. But when it comes to season 1, I remember every single episode. And they stick with me in a way that some other episodes throughout the show have not. And this is one of those where we have this girl who is invisible because no one notices her. She's literally turned invisible. And I love the twist at the end with the FBI being like, another one of these, come with us. We've got a place for you. And people like her, it's not just her, this happens to people all over the world. And the FBI used them to work for the government. It's so funny. And it's just it's such an insight into this universe. It makes the universe of Buffy feel bigger. The fact that the FBI is running supernatural stuff as well. I don't know. I just loved this episode. Living Conditions. This one I also love. This is where Buffy is going crazy because she hates her roommate in college. And I loved the humor in this episode. I love the slow burn to Buffy just literally losing her mind over her roommate. And also what I love about this episode is the fact that Buffy knew that something was up with her roommate, and she was right, and no one else believed her, and that is a theme that will continue in the show. The Eye in Team 413, this is where what's her name? Mrs. Walsh, Professor Walsh. This is where Professor Walsh tries to kill Buffy, and Buffy is too much of a badass to be killed, okay? She especially is not going to let herself be killed by the likes of Mrs. Walsh. So, yeah, this is just a great episode. Oh, this is also Riley sees this happen, and this is where he starts to be like, wait, what's going on here? He's still kind of in denial, but he sees this go down and he's like, what the fuck? So yeah, this is an exciting turning point in the series. or in like the season. Amends 310, a very special episode. The snow scene always has stuck with me. Also, this is the episode where the first is initially introduced, you know, coming back and haunting, for lack of better words, Angel as Miss Calendar. But the ending of this episode with the snow and with the two of them is just so special. So, number 92, Sleeper. This is where we realize that something is going on with Spike, like he's being controlled by the first. I loved this sequence of events where Spike is under the first control and how it comes to a head and how Buffy can see through it and helps him, and just everything about the way that this subplot was dealt with, I really loved. Okay, I Was Made to Love You, the bot episode, the Warren episode. This episode does such a good job at making us hate Warren and make him so memorable because of how much we hate him in this episode, that when we see him again, we're like, oh, no fucking way, this guy again, you know? So that's great. And then this episode also does a great job at making us really feel for and be on Katrina's side. Like, she was hardly in this episode, but I still felt so strongly for her that when she returned later on, I was like, oh my God, Katrina, like, please, girl, I hope you're doing well. Please, please don't get wrapped up back up into this. Yeah, this was just a really well written episode. This moment here at the end with Buffy like relating to the bot here is wild and very memorable as well. And then of course the episode ends with Buffy walking in at home and seeing Joyce on the couch, and yeah, this episode is memorable to say the least. Number 90, Life Serial. This is where the trio is properly introduced, I believe, into season 6. Warren, Andrew, and Jonathan. It was just so silly. The way they start out is so silly. This whole idea they had, this specific scene of Buffy, them breaking Buffy down and making her feel inadequate in this episode. It was just like, there was a certain humor to it that made me love it, but also I do enjoy the trio being introduced as the big bad of the season, even though you don't realize how dangerous they're going to be when it starts out here, but that's kind of what I like about it. At first you're like, oh, these pesky flies, and then it grows into something more. So I appreciate their introduction into the season. Okay, number 89, Dirty Girls. This is where we meet Caleb, a great, terrifying villain. This is obviously where Xander loses an eye. We also lose a couple girls in our fight here, and it's like, this episode's really scary because everything feels like it's doomed. Everything feels like we're just gonna lose. There's nothing we can do. In the moment, I was just so nervous watching this episode, but in hindsight, like, I already can see that it was just really well written, really necessary, and Caleb is a great villain to throw in at the end of the season here. We needed a corporeal villain, so. Okay, my number 88 is Seeing Red. I put Seeing Red pretty much smack dab in the middle of my ranking here because I have no idea how to rank this episode. I personally wish Tara did not have to die, even for the sake of where the show wanted to go. You know, they needed to make Willow turn into Dark Willow. I wish we could have figured some other way for that to happen because Tara is just one of my favorite characters and it's so sad to see her go. But I also think the way that she died is appreciated, and it's just like scary to see an unhinged man have access to a gun and the very real reality of what can happen there. Obviously, also, this is the episode where Spike assaults Buffy. I personally think that is in character for soulless Spike. I think they built up to that moment well. I think it's really hard to watch, though, and I wish they didn't have to do that. I don't know. There were just things that were done in this episode. I wish we could have figured something else. I know why they made Spike do what he did. I know why they made Tara die. I just wish that we didn't have to do either of these things. I personally think this is a really well-written episode. I think it's a shocking episode. I'm guessing it's one of those episodes that you guys cannot wait to see a reactor get to just see what their thoughts are on it. And I think that in and of itself makes it a great standout episode, but I have complicated feelings toward it because I lost Tara and I hate that. And also that scene with Spike, while I am one of the people that thinks it was built up to, it makes sense. It's a reminder that he is soulless, and he's a lot better than pretty much any other soulless vampire in existence, in my opinion, but you still can't turn a blind eye to the fact that he's soulless and he's has that side in him and he's capable of being that person no matter how hard he tries to fight it. It's just hard to watch. I don't know how to rank this episode. I just put it in the middle. Okay, moving on. Number 87, Lies My Parents Told Me. I appreciated this episode for a lot of reasons. I thought it was done really well thematically, and it ties all back into that episode title. Really great. The thing that honestly brings the episode lower than maybe it should be is just the fact that Giles goes behind Buffy's back in this episode, and it pisses me off. If that didn't happen, this episode would probably be higher, because I loved the flashbacks. I loved, the added lore that we got about Spike's story, and I loved that we finally put to rest, Principal Wood's fixation on getting his revenge on Spike. Number 86, Anne, episode 3-1. This is one of my higher season premiere rankings. I think it's just such a special moment to see at the end of this episode, after Buffy has been going as Anne and kind of literally like changed her identity, is just like in denial of being who she really is. She reclaims herself as Buffy the Vampire Slayer at the end of this episode. And that moment is what skyrockets this episode as high as it is. Number 85, No Place Like Home. This is the episode where we discover that Dawn is the key, one of my favorite subplots of the entire series. Number 84, This Year's Girl. Faith wakes up from her coma, and anytime Faith returns in a Buffy episode, it's going to be a higher rated episode in my opinion. I love Faith's character and what she brings to the show every time she's on screen, and the whole body swap situation here is just like so fascinating to watch. Into the Woods, 510. We're in the midst of the health scares with Joyce. They set that up all really, really well, leading to the body. Everything before that just like has you on edge, and then it still feels shocking when the body hits. But then also this is the episode where everything comes to a head with Buffy and Riley's relationship, and Riley leaves. And that whole conversation she has with Xander, and she runs after Riley and he doesn't see her and he leaves anyways. It's like so tragic, but also I was kind of happy to see Riley leave. Not because I didn't like him as a character, but just because I felt like he served his purpose, and it just didn't feel like he belonged as part of this. He never felt like he belonged. I don't know. He just never felt like endgame to Buffy, and he was never really friends with the Scooby Gang. I didn't need him to stick around. Number 82, Phases. This is where we find out that Oz is a werewolf. Loved that. And this is where the Oz and Willow romance starts to bloom, and I really enjoyed watching that relationship bloom. So, number 81, The Zeppo. This might go higher on a rewatch. I remember loving this episode initially, thinking it was so good. Specifically the writing, like this is a very tight script as well. This episode is perfect when it comes to the writing. The whole idea of Xander, like saving the world, and then the end where like no one knows what he did and he doesn't need everyone to know. He keeps it to himself, is so cool and so special. Although one thing that I hate in this episode is Faith takes his virginity, and it's really sad. I know he was consented to it, but I don't think he fully realized what he was consenting to, because I think he thought it would mean more than it did. Like he didn't realize, I don't think, that it meant literally nothing to her. So that's really, really sad to see. Number 80, Checkpoint. This is the episode where Buffy puts the council in their place, and I could watch that scene over and over again. The end. Number 79, Nightmares, another standout from episode 1. This episode was so great because, it's so early on in the show, and this gives us insight into the characters that we are learning to love. It's giving us the insight that we need to love them, It helps so much to help me understand who these characters are. And that's why I really appreciated this episode, seeing their worst fears come to life and learning what they are. And it's just like, it's such a great episode to have in that first season specifically. Okay, Listening to Fear at number 78. Again, we're scared of Glory. Glory has this monster attacking all of like the mentally ill people in Sunnydale that she has affected. It comes for Joyce. Thank God we saved Joyce. I don't know, any episode in season 5, honestly, where Glory is like stirring the pot is going to be a higher ranking episode for me, because I just enjoyed season 5 so much and Glory so much. Another season 5 episode, number 77, Shadow. Obviously, Glory's another standout in this episode, but also this is where we find out about Joyce's tumor. It's the start of, a sequence of events that leads to one of the best episodes in the show. Number 76, Fear Itself, an amazing Halloween episode. You know what? If it's a Halloween episode, it's gonna be up there for me. I love a Halloween episode so much. And this is one of my favorite ones where we kind of have like this haunted house situation, and the bunny costume, Anya in the bunny costume, is so funny and so memorable. Giles, like with his chainsaw, and it all coming down in the end to like Fear, the monster of the week, being just like this little tiny guy, is such a fun message to send about fear. I loved this episode. Number 75, Real Me. This is one of my favorite episodes. The fact that this is one of my favorite episodes, but it's only at number 75. This is why I was struggling with this ranking, you guys. Harmony's return and trying to establish herself as Buffy's nemesis is so funny. It's hilarious. I loved that whole subplot of this episode. And then also, this is the episode where Dawn is just here now, and we're like, hey, who is this girl? What's going on? Are we're just all gonna act like she's been here the whole time? Hello? I loved the way that they wrote Dawn into the show. Okay, number 74, Flooded. So yeah, we are extremely depressed in this episode. The beginning of season 6 is just really, really hard to watch and see Buffy go through what she's going through. Everything that's being put on her shoulders immediately here in this episode, after she's literally just dug herself out of her own grave and come back from the dead, is insane. And I also really appreciate this specific scene that I have behind me here, this picture, with her and Spike sitting on that back porch and talking. I think it's really special. Number 73, Get It Done. This is the episode where we lose one of the potentials to the first. The first got in her mind and made her kill herself. So it's very, very intense. Also, Kennedy pisses me off in this episode. But what I love about this episode is when it comes down to Buffy going and visiting those, like, the first men who created the Slayer and stuff. And she rejects the power that they offer her. I love that. And I love that we kind of make it very clear that the men who created the first Slayer are cowards who put the weight of the world on a girl's shoulders, because they couldn't handle it. And that's crazy. So I just love that that's established here and that she didn't take any power from them. But yeah, Kennedy's situation here annoys me. Like, her reaction to seeing Dark Willow annoys me, and the way they just breeze past that later in the season also annoys me. Number 72, Homecoming. I love this episode. This is like what do they call it? Wait, I think I have it written down. Slayer Fest 98. So funny. This is just a fun episode where, like, Cordelia and Buffy are fighting to be homecoming queen, and then neither of them get it in the end. And the way that final scene plays off is like chef's kiss. So funny, so good. Number 71 is Witch, one of my favorite season 1 episodes. Back when I liked Amy, loved Amy. What the hell did they do to Amy? Anyways, this is a great episode. This is another one. Season 1 did a great job at doing a double twist. Where, we thought it was Amy, but then we find out it was her mom. And the fact that I know her mom is still in that trophy to this day brings me immense, immense joy. Number 70, Revelations. This is also as high as it is because I really enjoyed the double twist and the writing of this episode. This is where Gwendolyn Post shows up as Faith's new watcher, but then we realize actually she's evil. And then also, this is the episode where the rest of the Scooby Gang realize that Angel is back and that Buffy has been, like, visiting him and stuff. Okay, number 69, Tabula Rasa. Really frustrating episode to watch, but just a really well done episode. This is one of those episodes where my emotions and how it makes me feel can't drag it down, because I can't look past how well it's written and how good it is and how it serves to the plot of the 6th season. Number 68, Welcome to the Hellmouth. The premiere, the first episode. I loved this show from the first episode, and that's really hard to do, and this episode did it. Number 67, The Dark Age. We meet the Ripper. Enough said. Number 66, Showtime. Here endeth the lesson, right? The potentials are doubting, Buffy's capabilities, and she's like, let me show you what I can do, okay? And you better step up because you need to do it too. Buffy in season 7 feels more like the Slayer than ever before. She owns the role like never before, and people kind of hate her for that, but it's necessary and it's why the world is saved. Number 65 all the way. This is the fun, Halloween episode with Dawn, and she's with this boy, and I like that we focus on Dawn here as she's like kind of coming of age and like wanting to hold her own and like talk to boys, and it's just I love the warm coming of age feel to this episode, but it's also balanced with another classic horror trope episode, which I always love when they lean into the horror side of the show. So this was fun. The harsh light of day 4-3. This is the whole ring situation. This is where it's going to lead Spike to go over on an episode of Angel. So I just love that crossover that starts here. And then also, this is where Parker is happening, and it's like, ugh. But like, low-key, I'm here for the drama. I'm so sorry. Primeval, number 63. What makes this episode so special and such a standout, it is of course like the whole Scooby Gang putting their essences of each other all into Buffy. It made me emotional, and it was just so cool to finally see Adam fucking dead. Long time coming. Number 62, Selfless. This is the Anya episode where Anya literally slaughters a frat house. And is trying to get back, she's turned herself back into a vengeance demon, and she's trying to reacclimate to vengeance demon life after being human and feeling human emotion for so long. And she's realizing it's like a wake up call episode where she's like, I actually, this life isn't for me. Halfrick dies in this episode, which is like sad to see, really for Anya's sake especially. And also really important moment in this episode, like Buffy being willing to kill Anya. Again, season 7, she steps into her role as the Slayer like never before. Number 61, Angel. I saw recently a clip of Charisma Carpenter saying like season 1, episode 7, Angel is the episode where all of us officially got hooked on the show. And even though I loved the show, like I said from the first episode, this is the one where I was like, holy shit. I had no idea Angel was a vampire. I knew nothing coming into the show, so that was a really exciting reveal to me. Number 60, Blood Ties. This is where like maybe there might be a little bit of a connection between Glory and Ben. I'm still not sure. What I loved about this episode is, Dawn really struggling to feel like she matters as a human being, as a sister to Buffy, and Buffy makes it more clear than ever to her in this episode that they are sisters. She comes from her blood. They are connected. This is real. She is real. Number 59, Older and Far Away, another Dawn-centric episode, and this is as high as it is because of how this episode ends. It's a really fun, chaotic episode. I love when we are all stuck in forced proximity together for some plot reason, so that was fun. But of course, Dawn just wanted everyone to be together. Dawn just wanted to be seen, to be noticed, to be chosen, and Buffy chose her at the end of the episode and stayed home with her, and that moment was really cool. Okay, my favorite Halloween episode is number 58, Halloween 2/6. This is where everyone turns into their costumes, and Willow is left to really be the hero of the episode, and Oz, he like drives by her in the van and he's like, who is that girl? And I'm like, that's your girl. This episode is a lot of fun. Seeing them like step out of their characters and become someone new is fun as well. Number 57, The Harvest. Of course, this is the part 2 to the first episode premiere, and I was so shocked when Jesse died. This is why this episode is so high. I could not believe that they put Jesse in the main credits and then he turns into a vampire and dies in the second episode. And I respected the show so much, and that's when I knew I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this show. This show is gonna be good. Number 56, Storyteller. Of course, this is the Andrew-centric episode where I think, in my opinion, this is the episode where he's fully redeemed. For a while, like throughout season 7, I'm simmering and I'm warming up to him and I'm like, oh, you're such an idiot, but you know what? You're not that bad. Maybe you really are gonna turn around and redeem yourself. And this is the episode where he does. This is the episode where he's like, I don't deserve to live after what I've done. And he really means it. And it's like, wow, like, okay, I know that you've actually changed, and I will take you in as, one of my own now. As part of the Scooby Gang even. I will go that far. Okay, number 55, Something Blue. This episode is just so fucking funny, and that's the only reason it's this high. I find this to be one of the funniest episodes of the entire show, and the humor of it has brought it all the way up to number 55 for me, so that's all. Number 54, Help. This is the episode with Cassie, one of my favorite like random character, one episode characters that pops up in the whole series. She was so interesting and she said a lot of interesting things that I can't wait to go back and like re-fathom after knowing how the rest of the season pans out. I do remember her telling Spike like her time will come and she'll say it or something like that. And I think she was referring to Buffy saying that she loves him, which Buffy does later on. So Cassie is such an interesting character, and this was such an unexpected episode. You know, the way that it ended was really hard-hitting and emotional, but also just very cool. Number 53, Fool for Love. This is a big Spike flashback episode. We learn about his past and how he's killed Slayers in his past, and I am just a sucker for a good flashback episode and for added lore about different characters, and this one was done really well. Number 52, Smashed. This one is dark. This one has Buffy facing herself in a way where like she's really spiraling and like lost in herself. And this is the one where, you know, her and Spike sleep together for the first time, which is the start of a very tumultuous relationship here in season 6. And I just really like it for Buffy's character development and also Spike's. I think, you know, they're like tumbling over mistake after mistake with each other in this season, but it's necessary for both of them to go where they go from there. Number 51, Lie to Me. This is the, what's his name? I'm going to try to remember it without looking down. Ford, right? Yes, his name was Ford, Buffy's childhood best friend. This is the vampire cult. And this is the first episode that establishes that this show is not afraid to be morally gray. So you better strap in and put your thinking caps on when you watch episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Number 50 is Entropy. This is the episode where Spike and Anya sleep together, and I actually don't hate it. I wish that these two became closer friends. Throughout the series. I think they have a lot in common and could relate to each other a lot. Like when they were talking here in this episode, I was like, wow, you guys really get each other in a way that some other people can't get you guys. And I wish we could have explored that relationship more. I don't think it needed to be romantic, but like them having sex here in this episode made sense, but I was still sad. And then Xander finds out. Like Xander sees it, but then also what stands out more than him seeing this is him finding out that Buffy has been having sex with Spike, and his reaction to that pisses me off. But still a really well written episode, and the drama is messy, so you know I love it. Number 49, What's My Line, Part 1. We are in the height of Spike wanting Buffy dead. We meet Kendra. Like the whole concept that, you know, Buffy died so another Slayer has been activated was so cool. And like getting to meet her and them coming face to face, it was like, I never would have thought that this would happen, but it's such a cool subplot. So I appreciate the introduction of Kendra here. And then later on when Kendra dies, you're like, ooh, that means another Slayer's activated. Who's it going to be? And that leads to Faith. And it's like, oh my God. The whole writing around a Slayer dying and then a new one being reactivated, but Buffy coming back to life in the first one and living to see 2 other Slayers be activated throughout the series is so cool. Number 48 is Surprise. It's Buffy's 17th birthday. Her and Angel sleep together for the first time. It's very special. Until he becomes Angelus and a whole subplot of season 2 is released that is so intense and amazing. So it sucks, it's sad to see, but also we meet Angelus properly for the first time and it's really cool. Number 47 is Spiral. This is where, you know, the whole group, the whole Scooby Gang is going on a journey to like out into the desert in an RV or something. Are they in an RV or a bus or... I think an RV. Wait, aren't they in an RV and then Spike is there, like, and everyone's like, what is Spike doing here? Sorry, like, pieces of the episode are coming back to me. But this is where they start to put together the fact that there might be a connection between Ben and Glory, something that we're still not quite sure about, but I think that they might be onto something. And we have the Knights of Byzantium, and we have, like, that showdown coming to a head. And I think this is the one, is this the one, oh, I might be wrong. Is this the one where Dawn actually gets taken, like, gets kidnapped by Glory? Great episode. Okay, number 46, I Only Have Eyes for You, 219. It's so crazy to see Angelus being pulled into this spell, reenacting this situation that happened years ago in Sunnydale High. That specific situation that happened that I'm talking about is a little odd, but we moved past it. This is just like such a standout episode. This is an episode that sticks with you. And Angelus like really was forced to feel emotion that you don't see a soulless vampire feel, and that was really cool. Number 45, Bargaining Part 1. This is the opener of season 6. This shot right here, like they have Buffy bot pretending to be Buffy, filling in, and like Dawn sleeping in bed with her and cuddling her and like pretending it's Buffy is so heartbreaking, and just seeing all of them, you know, living, trying to live without Buffy. It's so hard to watch. And then, of course, Buffy like wakes up in her grave at the end. They've managed to resurrect her, and you're like, oh shit, like this is gonna be a good season. Number 44, The Weight of the World. Yeah, so this is the episode where after Dawn gets kidnapped, Buffy completely shuts down and Willow ends up going inside her mind. And you know me, you know how much I love like getting into the mind of the characters, and we literally get to do that in this episode. So of course, this is going to be higher up there for me, and Buffy like comes out of it and, you know, is like ready to kick ass after this episode. So that's really cool. Oh my God, Tough Love. This is where Glory like does her little brain damage magic on Tara, and that was so scary. That's like such a standout moment for me personally. And then also this is where Glory finds out, like figures out finally that Dawn is the key, and things start getting intense to wrap up the end of the season. Okay, Buffy versus Dracula. I think this is the final premiere episode that I have in the ranking, which means it's my favorite premiere. I just thought that it was so fun and so cool. Like meeting Dracula, I was geeking out right alongside the characters, but I'm really excited to go back and watch this episode, because I think Dracula was like spitting some crazy facts on Buffy, and I could tell like in the moment that it was special, and I could not wait to like go back and rewatch. So this is an episode I'm excited to rewatch. But also the reason that this is so high is because of this scene here where Buffy like embraces Giles and is like, I still need you to be my watcher. Like I still have so much to learn from you. And that was like a really heartfelt scene that I really liked. Number 41, The Prom. Guys, Class Protector Award. That's all. Number 40, Who Are You? Okay, this is the continuation of Faith coming out of her coma, and she and Buffy are still switched bodies. And the reason that this episode specifically is so much higher than the first episode where she initially comes out of the coma is because in this episode it comes to a head where like Buffy and Faith fight each other, and they're still in each other's bodies, and you realize that Faith in Buffy's body is fighting herself, and it made me cry. It was so emotional. It was so well written, and another standout scene. Okay, number 39, Villains. This is where we meet Dark Willow, and this is where Dark Willow literally flays Warren. An unforgettable episode. Number 38, Wrecked. So this comes right after Smashed, I believe, and this is where, you know, Willow, who's been doing some questionable stuff with magic, she ends up, this is where we go to the drug den, the magic den, and she ends up crashing the car with Dawn, and it's like a huge wake-up call. She knows something is wrong with her, and she's gonna go on and spend most of the season trying to push away, you know, her draw to the dark side. Number 37, Bargaining Part 2. So this is the part 2 of the season 6 opener. Of course, this is where Buffy gets out of that grave and she's just stumbling around town like, what the fuck? It is such an eerie episode. You cannot begin to imagine how Buffy is processing what is going on here. Yeah, I love season 6. I just love season 6. It ends, you know, with Dawn and her back at the spot where she initially sacrificed herself, and Dawn like gets her to come back, and crazy couple opening episodes to this season. Number 36, I have Lover's Walk. Spike comes back for an episode, right? And he has been dumped by Drusilla, and it's fucking hilarious. It's like so good seeing this side of him so starkly for the first time, seeing what a lover boy he is. And it's probably one of the most rewatchable episodes to me. Like if you would want to put on like a cozy, fun episode of Buffy, I I'm probably going to watch this episode so many times, honestly. Oh my God. Also, this is the episode where Willow and Xander literally cheat on their partners with each other. Crazy. What the hell? But also, so sorry. I love messy drama. Number 35, Faith, Hope, and Trick. We meet Faith. Faith enters the show. That is why it's this high. Also, Trick is such a fun character. Number 34, Crush. The things that Spike does in this episode is so shocking. And I think partly the shock value of this episode is why it's so high for me. I just could not believe my eyes watching this episode. But also, yeah, obviously it's a big deal because Spike also like confesses his love for Buffy, and that just becomes a huge thing going into the whole rest of the show, honestly. So that's definitely the start of a new era of the show, him accepting and admitting his feelings. Number 33, choices. Faith is, loving this relationship that she's fostering with the mayor. The mayor is my favorite big bad of all time, by the way. Probably the mayor, then Glory, then the master. I don't know. Don't make me actually think about it. I don't want to rank them right now. I don't know why I started to do that. Anyways, and it was just so sad seeing her be taken under his wing and how much she loved him. And I think he loved her. And it was just weird. It was great, but it was so weird to watch. And it made me feel so many different things seeing this relationship between them. So yeah, any episode in season 3 after like Faith turns over to the dark side and is working with the mayor is higher up on my list here. Okay, Consequences, 315. Obviously this is, where Faith tries to frame Buffy for the murder that she did. So again, the beginning of one of my favorite character arcs and just plot arcs as well with this whole situation in season 3. And then, yeah, okay, so this is this whole portion of the show is kind of just like up here for me. This is where Faith becomes a murderer, and again, it sets off a character and plot arc that I really, really appreciated and was very captivated by. I think in this episode, this is the episode 2 where she goes, I don't care. Like her saying, I don't care, the way that she did just is burned into my brain. Number 30, Gone. Okay, this is where Buffy turns invisible. And the reason this episode is so high for me is because of this conversation that Willow and Buffy have at the end here, and how this experience of her being invisible, she needed it. She needed a day where she was invisible. She indulged in it. But then at the end of the day, she realized for the first time after being resurrected that she does want to be alive. And that is huge, and it made me cry. So much of this show makes me cry. Number 29, Dead Things. Oh my God, there's so much packed into this episode, this season in general, which is why it's my favorite. This is where Katrina is killed. Shocking moment. And then the trio try to frame Buffy, and she really thinks it was her for a bit. And I remember that conversation between her and Dawn where like Dawn is really offended by how easily Buffy is like ready to turn herself in and just almost, it's like Dawn thinks it's an excuse for Buffy to just hang everything up, and she's just fine with going and sitting in jail and just getting to get away from everything, And I think there's some truth to that. Also, what we have here, this relationship with Spike is like becoming deeper than I think she ever expected it to be, and that's scaring her. There's just so much packed into this episode. Number 28, The Wish. The Anya episode. So Cordelia wishes that Buffy never came to Sunnydale, and we get a concept episode where, we step out of our usual characters and we get to step into this timeline where Buffy never came to Sunnydale and what Sunnydale would look like. And I love that, this is the introduction of Anya, which it was really exciting. We get to see these two being like evil, right? Xander and Willow being evil, which is kind of fun. But also Cordelia finally appreciates Buffy in a way that she never has before. She's like, oh shit, wait, actually, we need Buffy to get to Sunnydale stat. Okay, what's my line part 2? So this is the continuation of like the Kendra mid-season finale situation in season 2. This is a big deal, especially in hindsight, with what Buffy does at the end of the series, like sharing the Slayer strength with all of the potentials. We started What's My Line with her and Kendra kind of being rivals and like being like, oh, who are you? Who do you think you are? I'm the Slayer. And then they're like, no, I'm the Slayer. But in this episode, they learn to like work together, which is very important. And it's just so cool to see how far Buffy's come from this moment, this episode. There's so many things I love in this episode, though, that I wrote down. So they rescue Angel, right? Yay. Okay. The Oz and Willow animal crackers scene is in this episode. Peak romance. This is the start of Cordelia and Xander. Peak drama. And then also Drusilla is cured, and then Spike is injured in like the church rubble situation, and that leads to like Angelus kind of being in charge with that trio, and Spike being in a wheelchair, and that was like a crazy dynamic to behold. Number 26 is Forever. This episode makes me very emotional. I thought it was so well done. I thought it was the perfect episode to follow the body, where Dawn tries to resurrect Joyce. I think if you lost someone, you can relate to this, because I think a lot of us would choose to try to do this, even if it means they might not be exactly the same. It's better than having nothing, it's better than being completely gone. But the fact that in the end she came around to the fact that no, this is wrong. And, we didn't see Joyce's zombie, thank God, but just the emotional edge to this episode was perfectly done. Okay, number 25, 2 to go. We are in the height of Dark Willow here. She's trying to get to Jonathan and Andrew. This might be the episode. Do they flee to Mexico in this episode or the next episode? It might be this episode. I cannot remember for sure. But the reason I especially love this episode is the ending where Giles comes in. She's like, who's going to stop me? And I forget what he says. I'm sure it's really iconic, but he like opens the door and you reveal Giles and he's like, I'm back, bitch. Like, I'm going to stop you. And I just was so excited. That moment and Angel returning in the penultimate episode of the show are like my two favorite like dramatic reveals that someone has returned. This Giles moment and then the other Angel moment. Then we have Band Candy at number 24. Again, this episode is a concept episode where people step out of their usual characters and get to act as someone new, and it's fucking hilarious. Also, Ethan Rain being behind it is just perfect. And I just can't believe that these two had sex. I can't believe it. I can't. On a police officer's car. I can't believe it. This episode's hilarious. Number 23, Enemies. This is one of my favorite episodes. Again, this is another episode where I love it in terms of writing. It's so good. So Faith and the mayor are working together. They're trying to get Angelus back and to get Angelus on their side. And they think that they remove Angel's soul, but really it's a double cross. And we find out that Buffy and Angel are working together against them, and they come out on top. And it's a really well written episode. I really appreciate it. Number 22, Doppelgangland. Bored now. Also, isn't the episode where she's like, and I think I'm kind of gay? I don't know. This episode's so fun. Again, you can see I love a concept episode where things are just like thrown completely off its axis and we're stepping into different roles than we usually do. And I just think this is a standout episode. Number 21, Same Time, Same Place. I love this episode. I love the monster of the week here. Fucking terrifying. But also I love the emotional tone of this episode where Willow is like scared to face her friends again after coming back from England, after doing what she did. And, we get this moment where she realizes that her friends are going to accept her. They're ready to accept her with open arms. They're not going to judge her. They're going to embrace her. And then that's what kind of like fixes the whole situation that is happening in this episode. And I love that so much. Okay, number 20, Innocence. This is the episode where Buffy realizes Angelus is back and meets Angelus for the first time, and it is heartbreaking to watch. But again, I don't know if I'm a sadist or what, but I freaking love this whole sequence of events. Also, I believe this is like where we get Buffy with a rocket launcher, so that's pretty... What more can you ask for? Number 19 is Becoming Part 1. We get flashbacks in this episode, first of all. It's like peak Angelus trying to bring the world to an end, and also Drusilla kills Kendra. So that was shocking to me. I thought Kendra was gonna like be a continuous recurring character. Obviously she's killed and we get Faith from here, but I just wasn't expecting Kendra to be killed. I was so shocked by that. And Buffy gets blamed for it. It's just such a chaotic episode and I love the chaos. Number 18 is School Hard. Enter Spike and Drusilla. That's all I need to say here. Number 17, Conversations with Dead People. Obviously, as someone who loves getting into the characters' minds, this has to be up there for me. Cassie returning as the first was crazy, and you don't really know quite what's going on here, but then you're putting it together, and that whole conversation that Buffy has with that vampire is so cool. Like, It's so cool. We needed an update on Buffy's psyche at this point in the show, and I'm so happy we got it. And this is a perfectly written episode. Okay, number 16, Passion. This set a different tone in the show than I expected. I didn't know we would be going this dark when I initially started the show. But I like dark. I like when we go there. I like when we take risks. And killing Jenny Calendar and Jealous killing Jenny Calendar is a huge risk. And it ended up paying off immensely for the sake of like what this show is. It's so shocking and such a standout. And it's a catalyst for so much more. Number 15 is Becoming Part 2, the finale of Season 2. We successfully return Angel's soul, but Buffy has to send him to the depths of hell to save the world. Like, hello. Peak drama. Okay, and then number 14, I have End of Days. Angel comes back. I didn't expect to be so emotional over something like this, but it was so great to see Angel back in this show. I'm so happy they did it. It's one of my favorite moments of the entire show is him returning and then stepping back and watching her take care of Caleb. Number 13, I have Graduation Part 2, the finale of Season 3. It was just so cool to see the entire school come together for that final battle. It just makes sense for like the final high school season for it to end that way. I loved it. We took care of the mayor. Unfortunately, we did lose Principal Snyder, but there was just an epicness to this finale here that I loved so much. And then number 12, I have Graduation Part 1. The reason I have Part 1 ahead of Part 2 is because this is where the Buffy and Faith fight happens, and Buffy goes the extra mile. Like she steps up as the Slayer and she stabs Faith and sends Faith into a coma, and it's just really intense and shocking. Like you're not sure if she can do it, and she does, and that moment is like the standout moment from this 2-part finale for me. Number 11, Hush, a concept episode. You know I love a concept episode. Making it pretty much entirely silent is so cool. They pulled it off perfectly, and these are the spookiest freaking monsters I've ever seen in my life. I don't think anyone's going to argue with this being this high. Maybe some of you will argue with it not being high enough. I know this is a beloved episode, as it should be. Number 10, I have Family. Oh my God, we're getting into top 10. I love Tara. It breaks my heart that it took so long for her to get completely accepted into the Scooby Gang, and that we had to watch her feel like an outsider for so long. She's the sweetest, most perfect, beautiful soul on the planet in this show. And her finally in the end of this episode being accepted into the Scooby Gang. I mean, she already was, but she didn't realize it. And then Buffy was like, I'm gonna cry. You are part of our family. Like, I love found family tropes. And this episode is the definition of found family, and it makes me so emotional. I love Tara so much. Number 9, I have Touched. Again, another very emotional episode. This is as high as it is because I think personally this is the most well-written episode of the entire series. The themes that they cover in this episode and how they are interwoven through our characters is perfect. The fact that Buffy starts the episode feeling like she is unattainable. There's something wrong with her. She's unattainable. By the end of the episode, proving and feeling and proving that she is untouchable. It's just a perfect episode. Spike coming back and finding out that she was kicked out, having this conversation with her, boosting her morale, being like, you're the one, you're it. I don't care that no one else can see it. I can see it and you know it and you can do this. And she does. And like the whole idea of everyone being touched, like having sex and being intimate with each other because the end of the world is near, and that's what you do. You cling on to these connections and distract yourself in these like physical ways, but then everyone else is having sex, and then we see like Spike and Buffy just laying there cuddling, like holding each other is so special. And the episode being called Touched and Buffy proving herself to be untouchable in the end didn't let Caleb lay a hand on her when she went and found the scythe. It's just a perfect episode. Number 8, I have Potential. I will cry every time I hear Xander's little monologue that he gives Dawn in this episode. The fact that, they it might be easy to feel like they're nothing special, but it's hard to be, quote, nothing special in a world full of, in this little bubble world full of all these special people. And still they choose to step up. And the fact that maybe the hard work that she puts in, the important role that she plays within the Scooby Gang, she doesn't really feel like she's that important. And Xander's like, I see how hard you work. You were extraordinary. And I'm going to stop talking there. We're not going to cry in this video. I love this episode. Number 7, I have Afterlife. This episode reveals the most shocking moment of the entire show, in my opinion. I don't know if everyone else is as shocked as I am by this moment, but it all comes down to the conversation that Spike and Buffy have, where Buffy explains to Spike, which it's interesting, again, that he's the one that she feels comfortable to confide in. She admits to Spike that she was in heaven, or what felt like heaven, and she's been ripped out of it. And that moment, her saying that, I was like, how did we come up with this? Can I give every Buffy the Vampire Slayer writer a hug for coming up with this? This is insane. And like I said, season 6 is my favorite season. And like knowing that is what Buffy is going through just like makes everything make sense as far as how she's acting in this season. And the way that she comes back into herself and like stands her ground and becomes the Slayer that she becomes in the end after going through something like that is insane. And why she's like my favorite fictional character of all time. Number 6, I have The Gift. We all know it. Buffy sacrifices herself for Dawn. She realizes, that she can sacrifice herself instead of Dawn having to die, and she does it. And again, this is why Buffy is my favorite fictional character of all time. Number 5, The Body. This is the episode where Joyce dies, and we see everyone go through this shock and grief. And I watched this episode before I understood myself what grief feels like. A couple months after watching this episode, I lost my grandma, and it's the hardest thing that has ever happened to me. And I know I'm not ready to rewatch this episode after understanding grief myself because it was that well done. The emotional reaction that it gave me as someone who didn't even know what grief felt like it's incredible what it was able to invoke in me. And I don't know how I could ever watch this again, being able to relate on a new level. It's going to be a completely different experience. But this is just one of the best episodes of television of all time, like objectively. I have stuff higher than this. I have 4 episodes higher than this, but they are personal opinions. If I was speaking objectively in this ranking, I would think this is the best episode of Buffy and any TV episode I've ever seen. At number 4, I have Chosen. This is a perfect ending to the series. Spike sacrificing himself to save the world, and the series ending with Buffy sharing the Slayer strength with all of the potentials throughout the whole world so none of them ever have to be alone is the coolest ending, the perfect ending. I love it. At number 3, I have Once More with Feeling, the musical episode. This is the most perfect musical episode to ever exist. It's so fresh and exciting and captivating. The songs are actually really good, and the lyrics are important. The plot is still being driven. We delve deep into what the characters are dealing with the inner psyches of these characters through song, and then also plot-wise in the end, the whole Scooby Gang realizes that Buffy was in heaven, because only her and Spike knew it at this point. And also her and Spike share their first kiss, which initiates this entire sequence of events that just is like a character study, a perfect character study, Number 2, I have Prophecy Girl. I've not rewatched this episode yet, and I know when I do, I'm going to sob. The moment, it's just like Buffy finally accepts who she is in this episode and what she's meant to do here. She spent so much of the first season like being like, I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to be this person. But she realizes that it's not a choice. She just is this person, and she can't help it. It's just in her bones, and she accepts it, and she dies for the world in this episode. Xander rescues her, brings her back to life. There's some monologues in here that are so emotional and hit so hard. But also my favorite moment of this episode, honestly, is when the Buffy theme music cues in during the episode, and she's wearing that dress and the leather jacket, and she's with her people all around her, and they're like marching in like we're about to get shit done. I love when TV shows include their main theme song in an episode. When they do that well, it hits so hard. Like they do it in One Tree Hill, and for some reason, like the theme song playing during the actual episode, it's so emotional. But yeah, this episode is perfect. And that leaves my number one episode to be Grave, the season 6 finale. After me talking about how much I love season 6, this probably doesn't come as a surprise. I am a sucker for the power of friendship. It makes me emotional every time. I think it was really well done in this episode. Seeing Willow like come back down to herself was really special, but also the most special moment of this episode, and the reason that this episode is my number one, is not to do with Willow or Xander. It is to do with Buffy and Dawn. And the fact that this season started with Buffy having to dig herself out of her grave despite not wanting to be alive. And now in this episode, her and Dawn dig themselves out from underground. And Buffy has never wanted to live more, and she sees life so differently, and she wants to be here with Dawn, and she wants to introduce Dawn to how beautiful life can be. You know, she just starts so dark and depressed, of course, after what she goes through, but that moment in this episode where she digs herself out of the ground, wanting to live more than ever with her sister, is so special, and the reason this is my number one. That continuity from the beginning of the season to how it wraps up here at the end. So, yes, that is it. That is my Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode ranking. Again, just from a first watch. This is going to change over my years. It's going to change every time I rewatch the show. But this is my initial ranking after seeing the show for the first time, watching over the last couple years. Yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me through my entire Buffy journey. And if you're here, I hope you enjoyed this video as well. And I just can't wait to keep talking TV with you. And hopefully I will see you guys next time.